Namaste, 10th standard. Today, in my previous videos, we have discussed about Louis Pasteur, conqueror of disease. So, in this lesson was written by C.H. Carter. So, in the last videos, we could study till how in what subject he was interested, and Louis Pasteur was born in French and he studied in Paris, and we also came to know that he had done a lot for the diseases, and he was a great fighter against the diseases. So his contribution to the nation is he was trying to find medicines for the diseases, incurable diseases. So this is what he had done to the society, that is his French country, not only to the French country, to the other nations too. So now we will move further, coming to para number 16. Pasteur was trying to discover a cure for the terrible disease called anthrax. So, along with other experiments and with other findings, he has tried to find a solution for a terrible disease called anthrax, which men sometimes get from infected shaving brushes, and which was attacking cows and sheep in France and killing them off very quickly. He found out first of all that a cow could not have anthrax twice. Then he began to wonder whether it would not be possible to make a cow and even a man just a little ill with anthrax, so that they might not get it again. Perhaps this could be done by giving the cows or sheep very weak old germs to make them safe or immune for the future. One can imagine how dangerous this idea of giving people germs must have seemed in those days. Many scientists were angry about it, but they agreed to allow Pasteur to prove it by a public experiment. So what he did, he wanted to find a solution to anthrax, a disease called anthrax, a deadly disease called anthrax. So this is attacked to the human being, to the men, from the shaving brushes, and which also attack the cows and the sheep in France. So if you get attacked by anthrax, you die very quickly. He found that this disease does not get infected to this disease. If a cow is infected to anthrax mildly, it doesn't get attacked to a severe anthrax. So this was he found, and he thought that if we inject persons with mild germs, that is mild and weak germs into the body, so that anthrax can attack us mildly and we get immune in the future. So this is a very dangerous idea, and in those days people would not agree for this. Many scientists were angry about it. So many scientists said this is not proper way of experiment or finding medicines by injecting a weak germ into the body. So they stood against him and they got angry with the Pasteur, and they were hesitant to allow Pasteur to do this experiment. So this has to be done in the public experiment, but the scientists were not agreeing and they were angry on the Pasteur because he put forward this idea. Para number 17. So Pasteur collected some sheep, goat and cows and divided them into two lots. To one lot he gave injections of his weak anthrax germs. The other lot was left alone. Then on a certain day all the animals were injected with the most deadly anthrax germs that could be produced. On the third day after the experiment, a crowd of people gathered round the sheds to see what had happened to the animals. Pasteur, even though he was so sure of himself, must have felt nervous. All the 24 animals that had first been protected by the weak germs were perfectly well. The deadly injection had done them no harm at all. Of the other 2 dozen animals, 22 were dead and the other 2 were dying. When the news spread that Pasteur had discovered a cure for anthrax, hundreds of people wrote to him for supplies of vaccine or weak germs, and he had to turn his laboratory into a kind of small germ factory. So, what happens here? He wanted to show it by public experiment. So this should be done in the public experiment. So what he did, he collected cows, goats and sheep, divided into 2 parts, 2 lots, and one part is he had injected weak germs, that is anthrax deadly germs, weak germs, and to the other part, other lot, he left it as they are. So after 2 to 3 days, he injected both the lots with a deadly injection, and after few days they could find, after 12 days they could find that those animals which were injected with the weak germs, anthrax germs, were perfectly all right, and those which were not injected with weak germs, in that 20 have died and 2 were remaining, and they are very serious, they were in a very serious condition. So while doing this, he was very nervous, even though he knew that his experiment is perfectly suited for this anthrax. And after doing this experiment, the people they had seen this experiment, it was done in public place, so they knew what had happened. So people just wrote him letters to supply this vaccine, so that to produce these vaccines he had to convert his laboratory into a small germ factory, weak germ factory. So coming to para number 18. Pasteur received many honors from the French government, and in 1881 he came to a big medical congress in London. When he walked down the hall, there was a storm of applause. He looked around, thinking that the cheers must be for some royal person. For Pasteur could hardly believe that the applause was meant for him. So in 1881, French government arranged for one medical conference, in that he was invited. When he entered the hall, the people started clapping and applauding him, and he didn't know that this applause was for him, to encourage him, as praise for him. But he didn't know that what happened. He thought that this applause was for some royal person, but later he came to know that this was not for other person, it was for him, and he was very happy for that. So today this much is enough. Learn that how he experimented for the anthrax medicine. Para number 17. This is very important for your examination purpose. Para number 17. So read this, try to make it clear what he had done. And till then, next video I will continue the next part of the lesson. Read it and be ready for the next class. Till then, take care. Namaste.